This is a presentation of the 1099 Toolkit from Microsoft Dynamics Nav. In the overview video, we describe the various different functions that the Toolkit offers compared to what Nav offers out of the box. Nav out of the box basically will allow you to print 1099s and edit any mistakes if you can find them. It provides no ability to find any errors that need to be corrected, which can result in printing and sending 1099s to vendors in the IRS that are either incorrect or missing. The 1099 Toolkit provides several different tools to allow you to identify and correct any issues and verify what the 1099s will say when they're printed prior to actually printing them, saving time and paper. So let's take a look and see what these tools do. If we go to Departments and we go to the 1099 Toolkit area, the first thing that most people want to do is verify that the federal IDs for the vendors are correct. There are three things that might happen for federal IDs. They might be missing. You might have forgotten to put a 1090 federal ID code on the vendor card, which will result in no 1099 being printed. Or they might not be 9 characters, whether it's a social security number or an EIN. It has to be 9 characters, and if it's not, no 1099 will print. The final problem that sometimes occurs is that, unbeknownst to the user, you have duplicated the vendor, and there's a duplicate 1099, so that 2 1099s for the same vendor will be sent. This report identifies those issues. So if we click on Vendor Federal ID Issues and we review, it opens up a report that shows what the 1099 is that is entered on the vendor card. And if there's no 1099, it notes that the 1099 is missing. Now, maybe the vendor is not liable to receive a 1099, in which case the fact that a 1099 federal ID number is missing is not necessarily a problem. Some companies like to have federal IDs for all vendors. Here we see that the federal ID is duplicated, and we can quickly see what the fact that there are 2 vendor IDs with the same federal ID number. And in this one, we see that the federal ID is not 9 characters long. It was miskeyed during the entry, which will result in no 1099 being replaced. And I will tell you that this happens. I recently was working with an end user, a company using the toolkit, and they had 2 vendors where their federal ID was not 9 characters. So this is very helpful in identifying which vendors need to have federal IDs either corrected or entered, or vendors merged together. So this is the starting point to make sure that the federal IDs are correct. Next, what we may want to look at is a list of all of the vendor information that's going to be printed. So if we take a look at this report, and you can add filters. If some of your vendors are not liable to receive a 1099, you can filter them out using any field you wish. Now in this case, we see that the AR Day Property Management is going to receive a 1099 DIV 05 for $10. Okay, the original amount of the invoice was $50, but $10 was deemed to be reportable. Now, that's a rather strange example. It was simply put in to test to make sure that entries were being properly picked up. So here we have AR Days receiving an MIS 01. There's an invoice for $100. All $100 was reportable. So we see the entry number. If we look at this and decide that these were entered in error, we can see what it is, what each payment for each vendor, how it was coded, or if it was missing a code. Okay, so now we see that there's a total for MISC 07s of 241, and all of these were entered. And you can see this is the amount on the invoice. This is the amount that will be reported to the IRS. Not necessarily all amounts on an invoice are reportable, as if invoices are created with both labor and materials, only the labor portion is reportable to the IRS. So this may give you an indication. You may be able to view this if you know the customer or the vendor. You may be able to quickly identify where some errors are going to need to be investigated and perhaps adjusted. So this shows all of the payments for all of the different vendors and how they're coded, how much the invoice was, and how much is being reported to the IRS. So this is another way to be able to quickly view the information that's going to be printed. Once you've identified what it is that you want to do, we open up a worksheet where you can quickly go in and you can edit this information. If you need to, for example, change an IRS code, this will change the IRS code. If you're missing an IRS code, you can change this. There's the invoice. If you need to investigate, if you take a look at this invoice 100, you can go in and navigate on it, and we want to show the related entries. We can see what the vendor ledger entries were exactly and how they were what they were coded. So if this was a payment. If we want to take a look at an invoice, we can navigate on the invoice. And we can actually look at all of the lines and make a determination. Now, actually, you can adjust this information on the lines if you want, or you can just investigate what the lines were and hit escape and go back and adjust it on here. So that there's the invoice and the associated payment may need to be adjusted. So this is the worksheet where you can make the adjustments. This identifies problems with the federal IDs. This will show you how all of the payments have been coded, and this will show you what the 1099s, how the 1099s are going to be printed by vendor, by transaction code. So we look at the London Postmaster. They're going to get two 1099s, a DIV and an MISC, and those are the amounts, and these are the codes. Now here in AR Day Property Management, they also will get two 1099s. One is a DIV, which the DIV 05 box will be filled in, and one is the MISC, and there will be 3 boxes filled in on the MISC, and these are the amounts that will be filled in. Same with Coolwood Technologies. They'll simply get an MISC 07, and that's going to be the amount. So here you get a view of exactly what amounts for what codes are going to print when you print the 1099s, which you can do by going up here. Another thing that NAV is missing is the 1096. Now the rules by the IRS are, if you're going to send 250 or more 1099s, you must use the FIRE portal on the IRS, which is an acronym for financial reporting, whatever. Anyway, if you're going to print and mail them to the IRS, the IRS copy and the individual ones to the vendors, you must print a Form 1096, which is a summary form. NAV does not provide the Form 1096. This will allow you to be able to print the 1096 with all of the boxes filled in properly, so that it can be provided to the printed and mailed if you're going to mail the 1099s, because you have less than 250. Now the IRS says that you must use the FIRE portal which this will create the file all ready for upload and allow you to upload it to the IRS. You must use the Fire portal and submit digitally if you have 250 or more, but you may use the Fire portal and digitally upload the file even if you have less than 250 if you don't want to print and mail. So either way, you can use this tool to create the file and upload it to the IRS. Now, in order to do that, you will need to have a TCC number, the Transit Control Code, which is a number, an identifying number that's assigned by the IRS. And if you go to irs.gov, there's information on transit control numbers and how to obtain one if you don't have one. If this is entered in the IRS Fire setup and the fiscal year information, then all of this information will automatically be created and appended to the file that's necessary for identification for upload purposes. So the 1099 toolkit allows users to be able to easily find and correct any issues associated with 1099s, and then either print the 1099s, and this will allow you. We provide with the 2019 current 1099 form. So that you can print the 1099s. NAV does not offer yearly updates on the 1099 forms. So if you go to here, you'll print the DIV. If you go to here, you'll print the INT, all of the INT 1099s, and here will be all of the 1099 MISCs. So in summary, the 1099 toolkit can be an invaluable tool to make sure that the information that you're going to submit to your vendors and to the IRS is complete and correct. Thank you very much.